This is Max,
And this is Peter.
and this is our podcast Mindset Merge.
And this is our first podcast. This is kind of a really, I don't want to say monumentous day, but this is pretty exciting, you know?
Yeah, 100%. So like our biggest things with this podcast is we kind of want to talk about like wellness, fitness, self improvement, a lot of mindset, different things, and just like natural things that Peter and I just talk about on our everyday basis when we're together.
Yeah, so I'd like to give a kind of little background on who Max and I are as people. I don't want to go into too in depth on our intricacies as people because you guys will find that out pretty fast in our podcast. But I'm a 17-year-old junior at a school based in San Diego. I've lived in San Diego for a majority of my life. I wasn't born in America. I was Russian, but I was adopted. I've gone through a decent bit in my life, and so has Max. And we met each other at a job, and we work at Subway. And over time, we really kind of realized that we have very similar mindsets, but as well, we have differing views, and we've kind of learned to build off each other. And we have some great conversations. And we had a couple moments a couple months ago where we kind of had these conversations. We thought, wow, we think people could really benefit from this. Because, again, like I said, we've had experiences where they put us through trial and error, and we've grown from it, and we've became better versions of ourselves. And we had a couple talks, and we thought people could really benefit from it.
Yeah, and a lot of it was super fascinating too because like Peter and I mean, I would say we're pretty similar people with our mindsets and with a lot of our goals and passions too, but we've come from totally different I don't want to say like totally different like sides of life, but like it is a decent amount of difference. Like
Of course. If you want to give a little background.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. So I actually grew up in Ohio, so in a small town in Ohio. But then I moved out here for college. It was kind of like a change of pace and everything. And that's where I met Peter at work, working at Subway. We met back in October when I started.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Or it was like late October because I didn't work with you for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
But then after I came back from winter break, I'd say is when we really started getting closer, when we started having some deeper conversations that just kind of like naturally flowed. And it was really cool. And we're like, and then that's just naturally when we got closer, but then we're like low key, we feel like you were saying, people could benefit from this, and not even in a like, oh, I feel like our conversations are so superior that people could learn from them. It's literally like talking through all these things is just cool to hear, and like from maybe a different perspective, maybe a perspective that a lot of you might not have people you can talk to about things like this, or things that you maybe haven't thought about before that even we will think about for the first time talking to each other.
Of course. And that's kind of the, the whole basis of what we want this podcast to be. We want it to be a very authentic, real podcast where we learn and grow from each other, and hopefully from you guys as well. That's something that we actually, funny enough, talking about this, setting this up, we were talking about how we want to learn and grow, hopefully, as this podcast grows and ideally flourishes. We get a viewer base. We want you guys to give us feedback and different ideas on maybe the things that you're struggling with, and obviously we're going to be as authentic as possible and tell you guys what we're dealing with, the ways in which we're trying to deal with them and become the best versions of ourselves, as well as the trials that we've gone through and our triumphs, our falls, all this different stuff, because that's that's what's made us the way we are and who we are today. And like Max said, is we've had these conversations. They really just flowed, and again, it doesn't go back. It isn't this idea of we have all the answers. We're just gonna speak from this ever-knowing place where we think we're better than you guys, because I think Max and I both kind of know that intimately, you know. For lack of better words, we're all born shitting and crying, you know. Like
everyone's born into different. Well, everyone's the same. We're all born the same, but then also everyone has so many different experiences. So for us to speak about our certain experiences could be totally different from you guys, and that I think that's one of the best things about learning about different people's experiences is because then you're able to get different perspectives on stuff, and that's one of the biggest things that I've taken away from our talks.
Of course, and again, it kind of goes back into the fact that though Max and I have had such different, it's not incredibly like Max grew up or I grew up in the buttfuck of nowhere, and
Yeah.
you know, we had nothing, because both of us have had pretty good lives and upbringings. Obviously, that shouldn't discredit the things that we've gone through. Everybody, no matter what position you're born into life, even people who are born into billionaires and incredibly high socioeconomic classes. I've known kids who are like that still struggle the same things I struggle with, and as well as that, I mean, I was born into a really high socioeconomic class, and through certain experiences in my life, I lost my dad when I was younger, and going through just different things, it makes you kind of realize, shit, dude, life's real, dude, and it's gonna affect you in ways that you won't realize even as you grow up. Even talking to people who are 20, 30 years older than me, I'm like, dude, you guys gone through the exact same stuff I have, and it really opens up your eyes to the different perspectives of the world and the different things that you can take away from it. And I think that kind of goes back to something that he and I were talking about off pod, about how you can have experiences and they can be the exact same experience for two different people, and it's up to the person who they are and the experience
and how they interpret it and how they see it.
Exactly. And that kind of goes into mindset. And though Max and I have relatively similar minds, I don't want to say relatively because they're pretty similar, but again, we have these differing views, and we think that the merging of those, whether they're contrasting or similar, is going to be the beneficial factor where we can both gain things from it and become better versions of ourselves, and hopefully you guys can too. And so I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but we just want to have a kind of rough general podcast so you guys can get an idea of who we are. We've kind of given you guys little hints of that, and again, we're going to go into that much more and much deeper.
Way more in the future too.
Exactly. But yeah, I guess that's our little introductory, and we have a little fun stuff we want to talk about today. It's not going to be anything too long. Sorry if I'm kind of getting the words wrong. It's a little bit late. We had a little fun steak night before this, but yeah, I guess that's, again, I'm Peter and this is Max, and I don't know if you want to take it from
I was gonna piggyback a little bit more off of that. Is like I said, like Peter said, the biggest thing we want to do with this podcast is have it be as natural, and like it may even feel awkward at times where we just can't spit it out, can't spit out words, whatever. But that's like what we want this to be. We don't want it to be that scripted, say this, talk about these things, because that's what's going to get views. Like, we truly want this to not just be like a view farm like podcast. We genuinely want and think people can benefit from these conversations, or even just for us, even just like having these talks. We're like, we're going to have these talks anyway. Might as well record them because we think that they're fascinating.
That's literally how we came to this. We've had, God, since we've been working since October, I don't know how many shifts we've had together, but we've had a good amount, we've had a good bit, and literally every single shift we've had is at some point within the time that we spend, whether it's 4 or 6 hours together, we'll have these conversations that are just, I think, eye-opening for the both of us. And at the same time, we literally had it. We're like, dude, why don't we fucking just record this? Because again, it goes back to the fact that we're benefiting from it. And I guess it comes from, and I don't want to make this sound like a higher kind of, we can help people. We're never better than anybody else, but we want to help people. We want it to be something where, again, you guys can take from it, we can take from it, and again, we can be this cohesive community where we can build and just become the better versions of ourselves, because I think that's what it's all about. And that's something that Max and I really align on, is the idea, like I'm going to go back to what we said in the beginning, is the self-development and the kind of self-reflection and the ability to look at our actions, our decisions, and be like, okay, was this right? Was this wrong? And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier about accountability and shame and these different feelings that you feel relative to your actions, and the way in which you can use them to grow from them, you know?
Yeah. And what I was going to say is, like, a lot of this, like, how it sounds may sound like, it's like we almost want to, like, teach with these lessons, with these talks, whatever. The biggest thing is, like, Peter and I have somewhat of a, like, passion to inspire in some ways. And I think a lot of people naturally have that in a way that you can, like, inspire other people to do better for themselves. It's not even inspire like for you guys to live a life more like ours, or for us to live live a life more like the other person. It's inspire for everyone in this community to be able to do better and be a better person and be the best person they can be. And that's what a lot of these conversations are. It's like bouncing off of each other for thoughts, ideas, emotions, how we control them with our mind. And then it goes into like wellness and fitness and how you can make the most like complete body and make yourself feel good in and out. That's the biggest goal, is to be able to inspire not only ourselves, but hopefully you guys to be able to do that for yourselves.
Exactly. And not that we didn't already have an outlet to do that. I honestly would say that each other, Max to myself, and hopefully myself to Max, were our outlets to get this out. But again, it goes back to that idea. And we don't want to just keep reiterating the same point, but I guess this is, again, our introductory. We want to kind of get you guys to have a rough idea of what this podcast is going to entail over the time that we're going to do this. We don't know how long we're going to do this, but we'd hope to do this for as long as possible, and you guys enjoy it and, again, grow with us. But we want to have, and it's funny enough, we were talking about, it's like, dude, it doesn't matter if we have fucking 0 viewers or 100 million. We want to keep this no matter what, as authentic as possible, because this goes into the idea of other people picking up on authenticity. I mean, I think that authenticity really shines through no matter what. And we kind of were talking about certain people that we saw that were incredibly authentic, and they prospered immensely from it. And a couple names we thought of were like Sam Sulek, Joe Rogan, and these different figures over time that have stuck to who they are as people, and they grew over time, and their audiences did as well. And I think that's something that, I mean, myself included, and Max as well, it's stuff that you really resonate with the person that you're watching, because you're like, okay, dude, they're just another fucking human, you know?
Exactly.
I think when you watch pretty much anything, and you can pick up when there's a persona being put on, and we hope to never put a persona on. And honestly, if you guys ever see us putting on a persona, or it doesn't
call us out on that shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if it doesn't seem on par with who we are and who we've kind of defined ourselves as within this podcast, call us the fuck out. Tell us, hey guys, what the fuck are you guys talking about? You guys, because, and this kind of goes into self-accountability and then accountability within a community. I mean, I see accountability, what I'm initially trying to get at is what we were talking about, is kind of like the male accountability, somewhat brotherhood and everything. But accountability within a community is such a powerful tool. And it's something 100%. That I think that we want to keep throughout this whole podcast, and we're going to keep it to ourselves as best as possible. But again, we're human. We can only do it to a certain level, and we're going to fail at times, and we want you guys to keep us accountable.
Yeah, 100%. And a lot of that is like, it is just a different environment speaking, even though we're speaking to nobody. We're looking at the phone right now. There's nobody behind, and we're just speaking. Yeah. There still is a different aspect than the one-on-one conversation, but I hope you guys will see from our conversations, they're pretty natural, even on camera. We did a little practice one like a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, and yeah, it was awesome. So I hope it can stay that way and everything. But like Peter said, is like, we may not even naturally know it, and but 100% call us out on that stuff. And going into kind of what we want to do with these podcasts is, I think we'll have different podcasts with different ideas, but a lot of them we don't want to have certain questions or certain topics to bring up or certain things for that. A lot of it's just going to be like, we're going to have this base idea that we want to talk about, and then just let us go. And then we want to hear back from you guys. Like, how do you guys feel about the certain things we talked about? What things would you want us to talk about more on that topic, or what different topics would you like us to talk about? And we would 100% love to go into those.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that goes back into authenticity, and I think that it pretty much is, as Max said it, we're gonna have this general course plan for it, and we're gonna have parameters for the way in which we want to take it. We don't want to have it start as a development, a general kind of spiritual, because I think that at a certain point when you go down the self-development path, and I was actually talking to someone about this earlier today, how through self-development and self-recollection, it gets spiritual pretty fast. And I mean, not saying that we're going to go into the non-duality, the interconnectedness of consciousness and all this different stuff, you know, but we want it to start with a general idea, and again just build off of it. We want it to be kind of this web of different ideas. Again, we build off of it and it just becomes something beautiful, because I think that's the best way to do it, and I think Max aligns with that very well too.
Oh yeah, 100%. Peter pretty much hit it right on the nail.
And on that note, though, we have some very exciting things that we have set up for this as this goes on. And again, I know there are some people personally within my life and within Max's life that have heard about this through word of mouth and that are excited to hear this. And we're glad that you guys are going to tune in and see this, because this is kind of, initially it's going to be for you guys, and it's going to be for you guys to get a better look into, the people within my life, to meet Max, get an idea of who he is, because I've talked pretty highly of him, and I think that people are excited to see this. I know a lot of people have been really, really enticed by the idea of what I've kind of teased towards them, but fuck, where did I kind of forgot where I was going to say with this, but yeah, we want this to be kind of an introspective look within ourselves, and then the people we're going to bring on, we have somebody very exciting for some point within this podcast. But again, we don't want this to be how do I word this? Yeah, I guess I can distill this all down into, we want this to be an authentic kind of podcast where we grow as people, and hopefully with you guys as well. I mean, that's a reiteration of what I said earlier. And again, I'm going to go back to the fact that it's kind of late and I'm kind of not at my peak, but it's just, yeah.
A lot of it is like, we want this to be entertainment for you guys, but we also want to maybe be able to inspire and help you guys also with these things, and bring on people or talk about things that maybe you've never thought about before. Maybe you have thought about, but have never adventured into. Like, at the same time as how everyone watches podcasts, like, we want that entertainment, but it also is something that, like, you can throw on to just sit and genuinely just think about. That's hopefully that's what at least I would love to get out of this.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you kind of actually fucking, what's the word for that? Dart on the bullseye, or you hit it on the bullseye pretty much. Yeah, we want it to be something where you guys can enjoy this as much as we do, because we're doing this for ourselves, and we're hoping other people can benefit from this.
Yeah.
And again, we're going to have people who are going to challenge our own ideas, because we have ideas that we have not set in stone, but we have ideas that we hold close to ourselves. But I think, like with life and trying to become a better version of yourself, you need to challenge those things.
100%.
You need to find different perspectives that are going to make you think, like, oh crap, is this the right way to think?
Yeah.
Or not necessarily that there's ever a ultimate correct way, objective way to think. I mean, there are certain ones, like, don't murder people. Come on, guys. Like, don't commit arson, don't murder people. There's some baseline things you don't want to do, but we want this to be something where we can find differing new perspectives, and maybe ones we already have, but again, dive into them, see, are these founded in good ideas and in good truth, and I guess, yeah, that's pretty much what we want it to be.
100%. And a lot of that is because, like Peter said, we have some beliefs, opinions that maybe we hold very true to ourselves, and then other ones that are more loose that we can tamper with. But even the ones that we hold close to ourselves, we'd love to be able to hear, even if you have a totally different opinion than us. If you have a totally different opinion than us, that is a totally okay thing. And I feel like a lot of people, especially today, like, find that as scary, or like people like tend to drift away from each other with different opinions on different things. I mean, obviously it depends on the subject.
Exactly.
But like, we would love to hear those opinions still too, because like I said, I feel like a lot of it is just growing as a person. Is you have to understand different things from different people's perspectives to actually fully grasp the topic you're talking about.
Most definitely. And just something that came up as you was saying that is that somewhat goes into the idea of how, I mean, when we say people, we don't want to make it sound like we're not talking about ourselves, because ourselves included. I mean, when it comes to self-reflection, I personally find myself at times with views I hold very close to myself, as you should. With views you have, you want to keep them close, but I think you always want to have it in the back of your mind. It's like, okay, is this the right way to think, And that should be a somewhat guiding factor. But I was going to go into the idea of how this world's so polarized nowadays. I feel as if when you have an idea, whether it's politics, ideologies, even just kind of personal core beliefs, traditions, there's only ever a right and a wrong, you know, or
Does
there's
kinda seem
only
like
a
that,
good
yeah.
and a bad. And I think that one of the things that we really want to get at is understanding the nuances to each side and kind of finding maybe the middle ground. You know, there are things that Max and I don't agree on, but we have the ability as mature individuals to say, hey, you know, we don't agree on this, but let's come to a middle ground, you know? And I
Yeah.
think that's where people, I was going to say you, but people prosper. And that's where community and brotherhood or sisterhood or fraternity is just built. And that's something I think that we're losing as a population. And I think that's something that we really need to uphold and try to reaffirm within the people that we're talking to, and hopefully that's you guys. I mean, obviously we're talking to you guys, but we're hoping that you guys take that in and are able to do that as well as we're trying to do it. You know?
Yeah, and a lot of that is like, even for us, it's like a work in progress. Like, that's why we would love to hear your guys' opinions on stuff too, because like Peter said, a lot. I feel like you said, our society and world is starting to become a lot more polarizing with opinions, beliefs on whatever it is. When really, in general, like, you always got to find a gray area. Like, everything's not black and white, and the more that we separate ourselves on different topics, especially the more that we separate ourselves on topics and then continue to not like the person for that view, is where it's going to make it really hard to find a middle ground and find a way to compromise. And it's not even like you have to find compromises on certain things that you believe in, because if you truly believe in it, you should believe in it that way. It's just to be able to see things from another person's perspective is so important. And it's one of the things that I've been trying to work on so much this past 2 years of my life, especially, is like, you gain a whole new perspective on a topic that you thought about, but you maybe have never seen it in this light before because of the way somebody else lives their life.
Well, I'm gonna kind of draw a parallel real quick, and you were saying that, and I'm gonna use you as an example, and then I can use myself.
Yeah.
Is how vital I think traveling is and changing not community, but changing your environment. If
100%.
you take yourself from let's say like yourself and myself, if you've been in the same kind of environment for a good period within your life, you're going to be very comfortable, and you're going to have beliefs and ideas that are very tied to that environment, that place, whether it's a town, a city, a community of people, and having the ability to say, okay, this is great, and I really prospered as a person, but let me go out, get myself out of out of my comfort zone and find new perspective. And that's what Max did, because he was in Ohio for 18 years, 17
18 years.
Yeah, and then moved out here, and it's a whole different playing field in the sense of literally environment, in the sense of going from Ohio to California, and then also the general kind of hive mind of the people there, because sure, the people at a baseline are going to be relatively the same, but the ideas that they have and hold true to themselves relative to environment is going to be different. And I think that's something that really opened up your mind. And then, as well as myself, like, I went on a trip to Peru last summer, and that just opened my mind immensely to the different ideas and just possibilities within this life, and the sheer diversity of people as a whole.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things that Peter said was uncomfortability, which is something that I know I'll find myself rambling on about a lot this podcast, because it's something that I cannot stress enough. Is we naturally as people try to be as comfortable, like, naturally our minds, we want to stay as comfortable as possible. It feels weird to be uncomfortable and put ourselves in, but uncomfortability is one of the most important things, because when you put yourself in an uncomfortable position, it makes your brain adapt, which then makes you learn in new ways that you haven't learned before. Like Peter said, the move out here that I did, it's kind of crazy for a lot of people like my age, especially a lot of people back home. It was kind of a crazy move. I have a couple other friends that did something similar, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not that crazy.
No.
But, and like you said, the people, like, obviously there's some differences, but there's not a crazy amount of differences. But the biggest thing was, it's just a whole new environment. I'm going from a place I'm completely comfortable in. I know everyone. I grew up with the same 80 people in my class since kindergarten and preschool. Like, for you guys that don't know me, I grew up in like a really small town, but in like close to the big city, close to Columbus, Ohio. So I'm pretty close to the big city. But I mean, I knew most of my friends since 3rd, 4th grade, like all the way up until high school. Those are my boys from forever.
Of course.
And to move out completely away from them, to nobody I knew out here was honestly the hardest part. It wasn't the distance. It wasn't the okay, I got to figure out what I'm going to do college wise or what I'm going to. The biggest thing was I'm moving out to a place where I know nobody when I've been used to knowing everybody. And I will say I think it's helped my people skills so much because I've actually had to adapt and like create new friendships that I didn't have to ever do since third grade.
Of course.
And then a lot of it is just like you meet different types of people. The more people you meet, obviously, the more perspectives you get, but also the different areas you meet them. And a lot of that is because, like you were saying, you gain your beliefs and your opinions and your interests based on the environment you're surrounded by. So when people have different environments, obviously they'll have different opinions and different views on things.
Exactly. And something a term I've liked to, I haven't coined this, but I like to use it in a sense that's not commonly used, is progressive overload. And that's a term used in the fitness industry to describe over time having, and this is used initially with weight. So let's say you bench 100 pounds, right? You're going to bench 100 pounds maybe 6 times, right? But then the next time, try to bench 105 and bench that 4 times, right? And then over time, progressively overloading your system, because in turn you're going to grow. And I think that you can apply that to pretty much any endeavor
100%.
within life, whether that's moving to a new place, challenging ideas. The more ideas you have, the more you're forced to grow as a person. And the same thing goes with fitness, whether it goes with money, whether it goes with just your people skills, relationships, whether that's intimate or just platonic. At a certain point within your life, you're going to have to be forced to grow. And I think the sooner that you as a person, myself included, Max included, you accept that and you almost fall in love with, I don't want to say the pain, but you fall in love with the process of growing as a person, it's going to be a lot easier, and it's going to be almost, there's a quote from David Goggins, and I'm not going to probably get it for verbatim, but it's be comfortable with the uncomfortable. The sooner that you really get comfortable with that space, I think he calls it the dark spot, where, I mean, that gets into a different thing, and that goes into his driving factor and all that different stuff. But if you apply that to yourself, if you have something that you know that you need to somewhat address, but you're uncomfortable, that's the thing that you need to start addressing.
Exactly.
You need to start seeing, what is that? What are the reasons why I feel uncomfortable? What are the things that I can do to become more comfortable with that? Let's say it's an unhealthy feeling that you have. What are the healthy outlets I can get for that, And over time, you're going to realize, hey, that's an incredibly pertinent tool that you can utilize within your life. And it's going to, I can't stress it enough, and Max probably can't either. The rewards you're going to see from going down that path, because and it's also a path that's never going to end, and that's something that Max and I are going to stress throughout this whole podcast, whatever the life of that's going to be, is the processes that 99% of the processes you start, whether it comes to self-development, self-reflection, development within relationships, that shit never stops, dude.
No, you can
battle.
always do better. You can always improve yourself. Like, it's not like a end all be all for like, okay, I finally have gotten into good self-reflection. Now I'm done. It's those are constant things that it's like good like study habits pretty much for like a test, but for yourself, to better yourself. It's like different tricks and tips that we've maybe learned, and then hopefully you guys can even maybe teach us certain things that you've learned about how to self-evaluate, how to think about things differently, how to manage your emotions, all these different things to be able to better yourself. And like I said, it's almost like study hacks for yourself.
Exactly. And I think if you ever get to a point, and I've had this, where you're like, I understand it all, you definitely don't. And there's a quote, and I'm not going to get this for verbatim, but if I remember it correctly, is as soon as when you know nothing, you think you know everything. But when you start learning, you realize you know nothing. Dude, once I started really understanding that and intimately taking that within myself, there's so many things that I thought I knew everything about. And I really started delving really deep into them. I'm like, dude, what the I know literally nothing. There's with any niche or any interest that you have, there's always going to be someone that knows more than you. And I think that you can take that as like, okay, well, I have, and this is something I personally believe, is the competition aspect. I think competition is such a great thing. Whether it's competition within yourself, obviously you need to have healthy parameters for it. But if you have competition as a driving factor to be a better version of yourself, whether it's academically, whether it's monetarily, whether it's physically, mentally, spiritually, if you have competition with the healthy goal of becoming a better version of yourself, you're gonna prosper tenfold, you know.
Oh, 100%.
And that's something that I've kept to myself. That's something I've kept for myself, and I haven't always been this way. And like any human, I have my problems, I have my struggles, but I think it's recognizing that. Again, it goes back to the idea of you're no better than anybody else, in the sense of we all start on the same playing field. Maybe there's someone ahead of you, but I don't think you should ever look at that as like, oh, screw that person, they're ahead of me. It should be like, oh, if he can do it, and this is something I love to think about, if he or she can do it, I can do it. You know, like,
Yep.
why not? You know, it should be a horizon for what's possible, not a fuel for the fire of hate.
100%. 100%. Right. Nail in the coffin. But yeah, I think pretty much straight up, guys, I feel like we kind of gave you a good intro on the different types of things we'd be talking about. Honestly, we'll probably pull a good amount of topics that we just talked about to go dive more into in depth on some future podcasts. But that's pretty much the basis.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to leave it on one or two notes. I think that I'm going to probably just reiterate just a tiny bit more on, again, we're going to have these general kind of, I look at it as kind of course ideas. We're going to have a rough plan going into each and every one of these. As you should, you need to plan somewhat ahead. I think with different stuff, you need to plan more thoroughly, and certain things you can kind of go with the flow. And again, it goes back to the idea we want this to be authentic. We're gonna go with the flow. We have some great things and some very interesting things for ourselves that we think other people will really benefit from. We have some very interesting people that we think that. I mean, I already have grown from some of the people that we're going to be meeting with, but we think that you guys are going to be able to be really inspired as well as I have, and have these new differing perspectives. But yeah, I think that that's kind of the gist of what we want this introductory to be. We wanted to introduce who we are, again, Peter,
Max.
And we wanted to get you guys to have an idea of some of the things that we believe, some of the things that we want this podcast to be. And we just wanted to kind of let it be known, explain that, and wanted to just, I guess, I can't really, I'm going to just be reiterating it time and time again. I could do that for hours, but what's the point, you know?
Yeah.
I guess the final thing I want to leave it with is thank you for tuning in, and thank you for just learning about Max and myself, and just hopefully you guys are going to be along this ride with us and growing with us, and challenging the perspectives within your life, our life. And again, it goes back to this idea that the pure idea of this, and if I could distill it down to a single word, it's going to be growth. You know, whether that's growth mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, we're going to grow no matter what, but we want you guys to grow with us, and hopefully with your perspectives, we can grow faster, and you guys can as well, because at the end of the day, we're all in this together. Whether you're in Libya, Kuwait, fucking Russia, or Ukraine, you know, you could be on the other side of the world, but we're hoping that there can be one or two things that we can give you, or you can give us, that are going to make us a better version of ourselves. And I think that's what it really dives down to, or at least Max and I see it in our day-to-day lives. There's how can we be better versions of ourselves?
100%. And to finish it all up, I appreciate, like Peter said, appreciate you guys for listening, for all those people that did listen, for all those people, even if you tuned in just for a little bit and just heard a couple of our conversations, 100% appreciate it. We'd love to hear your feedback and comments. I know a lot of our basic viewers are going to be people that directly know us. Text us. Let us know what things you want us to talk about, what things you find interesting, or things you want us to dive into. We'd love to hear your feedback.
Yeah, and well, this is just gonna be for the people that we personally know, and you guys are gonna know who we're talking to. But thank you again for motivating at least myself, and I think for Max as well, to really kind of motivate and inspire us to get this done. I mean, we did this without that, but I think the feedback that I've gotten from the people I've talked to, and kind of just giving them snippets of what this podcast is gonna generally be about. I've only heard a resounding interest from it, and it's only motivated me more to get this done and talk to
100%.
Max and really have this come to fruition, because it's just from my personal life, and I'm gonna just finish off in 30 seconds. But yeah, it's been a very motivating and kind of inspiring I'm gonna just be reiterating the feedback that I've gotten has really just inspired myself to lock in with this and make this what we want this to be, and over time it's gonna hopefully get better, whether it's the quality of our speaking, the quality of our audio, the quality of our camera, all this different stuff. But I think you guys personally, again, the people that we know, have really made that possible.
100%. And yeah, with that, guys, that's our kind of rough draft intro. Honestly, we'll probably post it exactly like this. It'll probably be super rough. It'll be super weird, almost a little awkward at points when we stutter our words and shit. But yeah, honestly, that, like we said, that's how we want it to be. So that's the first podcast done, the introduction done.
Peace out, guys.
See
Thank
you
you
guys.
so much.